Imagine you're home alone, watching TV, and you hear children's voices coming from the attic. Maybe you glance into a mirror and see the apparition of a girl standing right behind you. Or maybe you're locked in a dark basement and start hearing voices coming from all around. If you think these are the kind of stories that would give you nightmares, then stop watching now. Otherwise, grab a snack, dim the lights, and prepare for a feast of grim and grisly content. I'm your host, Severed Soul. This happened on Halloween night a few years back. I remember the air was electric with excitement. I had always loved Halloween, dressing up, the thrill of haunted houses, and the promise of candy. But this year, I found myself home alone, my parents having gone to a party down the street. I was content to spend the evening curled up with a bowl of popcorn and a scary movie, the flickering light from the screen casting shadows that danced across the walls. As the night wore on, I lost track of time, completely absorbed in the film, when I heard it. A soft creaking sound. I paused the movie, straining to listen. It was coming from the hallway, just outside my room. My heart raced, but I brushed it off as the old house settling. I was alone after all. It was a drafty old place, and the wind often played tricks on the doors. But, as I resumed watching, the sound came again. This time, more pronounced. I glanced toward the hallway and noticed the door at the end slowly swinging open. A chill ran down my spine. I hadn't opened it. In fact, I was sure I had closed it earlier. I convinced myself it was just my imagination, the excitement of Halloween getting the better of me. I pressed play, trying to immerse myself in the movie, but my focus was shattered by the unmistakable sound of another door creaking open and then slamming shut. My heart raced as I turned my head, and to my horror, I saw the bathroom door slowly inching itself open, revealing the pitch-black void inside. Panic surged through me as I stood up, my instincts screaming at me to investigate. As I stepped into the hallway, the atmosphere felt charged, heavy with an energy I couldn't explain. I approached the bathroom door cautiously, peering inside. Nothing, just darkness. I flipped on the light switch, illuminating the small space, but it was completely empty. I exhaled slowly, trying to calm my racing heart. Maybe it was just the wind again, I told myself. I returned to my room, locking the door behind me as a precaution. I resumed my movie, but the sense of dread lingered. It wasn't long before I heard the sound again, another door creaking open. This time, it was the front door. My stomach twisted as I felt a cold draft creep through the house. My mind was racing. Who could be messing with me? I had locked the door when my parents left. I felt paralysed with fear, but curiosity compelled me to investigate once more. I stepped into the living room, and the front door stood ajar, swaying gently as if somebody had just pushed it open. My heart pounded in my chest as I approached. "Hello?" I called out, my voice trembling. No response came, just the eerie silence of the empty house. I shut the door tightly, locking it again, and turning to go back to my room, when I heard a soft giggle. It was unmistakably a child's laugh echoing from the hallway. My heart dropped as I felt the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. I had no siblings. There were no children in the house. This was downright terrifying. I crept slowly towards the sound, the laughter growing more distant, leading me deeper into the house. The hallway stretched out before me, dimly lit by the flickering light from the living room. I followed the sound, each step feeling heavier, like I was wading through thick fog. The laughter led me to the guest bedroom, its door slightly ajar. Taking a deep breath, I pushed the door open. The room was dark and still, the only light coming from the hallway behind me. "Is anyone there?" I called out, my voice echoing in the silence. The laughter stopped abruptly, replaced by a heavy stillness that settled like a weight in the air. Just as I was about to turn away, I felt a cold breeze wash over me, sending shivers down my spine. The door to the guest room slammed shut behind me, trapping me in the darkness. I spun around, my heart racing, and rattled the door handle, but it wouldn't budge. Panic set in as I pounded on the door, desperation clawing at my throat. "Let me out!" I shouted, but there was no response. I could hear my heart pounding in my ears as I pressed my back against the wall, trying to steady my breathing. Then I heard it again, soft, childlike giggles, now echoing inside the room with me. "Come play," a voice called, sweet and playful, but it sent chills down my spine. In a blind panic, I threw myself against the door, and with a sudden force, it burst open, sending me tumbling into the hallway. I scrambled to my feet and ran back to my room, slamming the door shut behind me. I locked it tight, my heart racing as I sank to the floor, gasping for air. The rest of the night passed in a blur of terror. I huddled in the corner of my room, clutching my phone, the sounds of the doors creaking and giggles echoing in my mind. I waited until I heard my parents return, relief flooding through me when I finally heard their voices. When they came in, I tried to explain, but they laughed it off, attributing it to my overactive imagination. But I knew what I'd heard, what I'd felt, and what I had seen. Halloween night had turned into something I would never forget. A night filled with whispers of things that should have remained hidden. And the chilling reminder that sometimes, when you're home alone, the laughter in the shadows isn't just the wind. The wind howled outside, rattling the old window panes as Halloween night enveloped the neighbourhood. I had always loved this time of year. The costumes, the candy, the thrill of the spooky. But that night felt different. It was as if the air itself buzzed with an unsettling energy. My friends had left after a night of trick-or-treating, and I was left alone in the dim light of my room, the shadows stretching across the walls like dark fingers. As I settled into bed, I pulled the covers up tightly, trying to shake off the feeling that something was off. The streetlights flickered outside, casting eerie shapes on my ceiling. But just as I began to drift into a restless sleep, a faint sound pulled me back to consciousness. It was soft at first, like the rustling of leaves. I strained to listen, my heart pounding in my chest. Then I heard it. A child's voice, sweet and innocent. "Help me," it whispered from beneath my bed. My heart dropped. I stared at the dark space beneath my bed, my breath hitching in my throat. Surely it was just my imagination, a trick of the mind fueled by the Halloween spirit. I sat up, peering over the edge, but all I could see was darkness staring back at me. "Please," the voice came again, clearer now, filled with a desperate tone. "I'm scared. Can you help me?" I felt a chill run down my spine, a primal instinct warning me to stay away. My mind raced. What child would be under my bed at this hour? The voice sounded so familiar, yet I couldn't place it. "Who are you?" I managed to croak, my voice barely above a whisper. The response was immediate, accompanied by a soft rattling sound, as if something was shifting beneath my bed. "I'm lonely. I just want to play," it said, a hint of excitement creeping into the tone. My heart raced faster, the innocent plea sending waves of dread throughout my body. I thought of getting up, calling my parents, but something kept me rooted in place. "What do you want to play?" I asked, my voice shaking. "I want to come out," the voice replied, now tinged with frustration. "Just reach down and take my hand." The invitation sent a shiver down my spine. I could almost picture a small child, maybe lost or scared, waiting for my help. But a nagging feeling told me I shouldn't trust it. "No, I can't," I said, my voice trembling. "You need to come out." The air in the room grew heavy, thick with an unseen weight. The voice softened again, almost pleading. "But I can't, I'm stuck. Please, I just want to play with you." As the words echoed around me, the atmosphere shifted. The dim light in the room seemed to flicker, casting wavering shadows that danced across the walls. I heard a rustling sound, closer this time, almost like something was inching forward beneath the bed. Panic surged through me, and I swung my legs off the bed, my feet hovering above the floor. "Stop!" I shouted, my voice breaking. "Leave me alone!" But the voice only giggled softly, a sound that sent ice coursing through my veins. "Don't be scared, I'm your friend," it cooed. But there was nothing friendly about the way it sent shivers down my spine. With a surge of adrenaline, I stood up, ready to bolt to the door. But then I heard it again, a soft, sad whimper. "Please don't go. I just want to play." The sound was laced with a sorrow that tugged at my heart, but I couldn't let it fool me. I took a deep breath and grabbed the nearest object, a heavy book, and held it underneath the bed. There was a moment of silence, and then I heard it. The sound of something scuttling back into the darkness. The voice changed, turning from a plea to a low growl. "Why did you do that?" it hissed, the innocence gone, replaced by something darker. "You were supposed to help me." I stumbled back, fear coursing through me as I bolted for the door. I flung it open and ran down the hallway, not daring to look back. I could still hear the low, menacing growl echoing in my ears, the child's voice transforming into something unrecognisable and horrific. I didn't stop until I reached my parents' room, throwing myself against the door and waking them with my frantic cries. As they comforted me, I could still hear the whispers from my room, lingering in the darkness, promising that it would be waiting for me when I was brave enough to return to my room. If you enjoyed that story and would like to hear more, then before we move on to the next story, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. The wind howled outside, rattling the old windows of my family's home as Halloween night settled in. I had been spending the evening alone, my parents attending a party a few houses down the street. The flickering candlelight cast eerie shadows on the walls, and the flickering light from the TV did little to ease the growing unease I felt. I had always loved Halloween, but tonight felt different, charged with a strange energy that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. It started softly at first, a low whispering that I initially brushed off as the wind. But as the hour grew late, the sounds began to take shape, rising from the attic above. I tried to ignore it, telling myself it was just my imagination, but the voices grew louder, more distinct. They were children's voices, giggling and chattering, as if they were having a conversation. My heart raced. Who could be up there? The attic was supposed to be empty. I gathered my courage, feeling a mix of curiosity and dread. I grabbed a flashlight, its beam trembling as I climbed the creaky stairs leading to the attic door. The whispers stopped the moment I reached the top, leaving an eerie silence in their wake. My breath caught in my throat as I pushed the door open, the hinges creaking in protest. The attic was dimly lit by the moonlight filtering through a small, dusty window. Boxes were stacked haphazardly, and old furniture loomed in the shadows. I could feel the air thickening, heavy with anticipation. "Hello?" I called out, my voice echoing in the stillness. "Is anyone up there?" Silence answered me, but then, faintly, I heard it again. A giggle, followed by a children's voice saying, "Come play with us." My heart raced. It sounded so innocent, yet there was something unsettling about it. I stepped further inside, the floorboards creaking beneath my weight.
"Who are you?"
I whispered, feeling a chill creep up my spine. The giggles returned, now accompanied by the sound of footsteps. Small, hurried steps. I shone the flashlight around, desperate to catch a glimpse of whoever was there, but the shadows seemed to swallow the light, keeping their secrets hidden. "Come on, don't be scared," one of the voices urged, a playful lilt in its tone. "We're waiting." The feeling of being watched wrapped around me like a shroud, and I could almost feel the presence of unseen eyes studying me from the corners of the attic. "Stop playing games," I shouted, my voice cracking. "Show yourselves." As if in response, the laughter erupted, filling the air with an otherworldly echo. I felt a cold breeze pass straight through me, and the boxes began to rattle, shifting in place as if something was moving them. Then, in the corner of my eye, I saw movement, a flicker of white. I turned, but nothing was there. My heart raced as the whispers grew louder, merging into a chaotic chorus. "Play with us, forever," they cried out, the sweetness of their voices now laced with a chilling undertone. Panic surged through me, and I turned to leave, but the door slammed shut with a deafening bang. I gasped, scrambling for the handle, but it wouldn't budge. The voices grew frantic, their giggles turning into shrieks of excitement. "You can't leave. You have to stay and play." I felt a presence closing in on me, the shadows stretching and contorting as if they were alive. The air turned icy, and I could see my breath in front of my face. "Please let me out," I begged, pounding on the door, desperation clawing at my throat. But the laughter only grew louder, drowning out my cries. Suddenly, the flashlight flickered and died, plunging me into absolute darkness. I was enveloped by the voices, their whispers wrapping around me like a noose. "You belong to us now," they sang, their tones sweet, yet sinister. In that moment I realized I was not alone in the attic. I was trapped, surrounded by the spirits of children who had once played there, their laughter now a haunting echo. I could feel their cold fingers brushing against my skin, pulling me closer into their world. As the door finally creaked open, I stumbled back, gasping for breath. My parents stood in the doorway, their faces filled with confusion. "What's wrong?" they asked, but I couldn't answer. All I could hear were the fading giggles behind me, the last vestiges of laughter swirling into the night as I fled from the attic, forever haunted by the voices that called me back. The following incident happened on Halloween night, a time when the veil between the living and the dead is said to be at its thinnest. I was 16 at the time and had always been fascinated by the supernatural, revelling in ghost stories and the thrill of fear. This year, I decided to embrace the spirit of the season by hosting a small gathering at my parents' house, inviting a few friends over for a night of costumes, snacks, and spooky tales. As the evening wore on, we shared ghost stories, each one more chilling than the last. The atmosphere was electric, filled with laughter and excitement. We decided to play a classic party game that had always intrigued me, the Bloody Mary ritual. The idea was simple: stand in front of a mirror in a dark room, chant her name 3 times, and see what would happen. After some initial hesitation, we gathered in my dimly lit bathroom, the only lights coming from a flickering candle I had placed on the sink. My friends giggled nervously, pushing each other forward, but I felt a thrill of anticipation. I stepped up to the mirror, the candlelight casting eerie shadows on the walls. "Are you sure about this?" one of my friends whispered, but I shrugged it off, eager to see if there was any truth to the legend. I took a deep breath, the air thick with tension, and began to chant. "Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary." My voice trembled slightly, but I pressed on, feeling a sense of exhilaration. As I finished the chant, the candle flickered violently, and for a moment, the room felt unnaturally cold. We all leaned closer to the mirror, searching for any sign of movement. At first, nothing happened. I was about to laugh it off when, out of the corner of my eye, I saw something shift behind me. A fleeting shadow, barely perceptible. My heart raced, and I turned to look, but there was nothing there. "Did you see that?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. My friends exchanged glances, their faces pale. "You're just messing with us," one of them said, trying to sound brave. But I could feel the tension thickening in the air. We decided to give it another go, despite the unease settling in our stomachs. I stepped forward again and repeated the chant, this time with a bit more conviction. "Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary." The room grew colder. The candle flickered wildly, casting dancing shadows on the walls. And then it happened. As I glanced back at the mirror, I saw her, a girl standing right behind me. She was translucent, her features delicate and haunting. Her hair was long and dishevelled, falling around her face like a veil. Her eyes were wide, filled with an indescribable sadness that sent chills down my spine. I froze on the spot, my heart pounding in my chest. "Turn around," one of my friends gasped. But I couldn't move. The apparition seemed to be reaching out, her mouth moving silently as if trying to say something. The candle flickered one last time before extinguishing, plunging the room into darkness. I could feel my breath quicken, panic rising within me. Finally, I mustered the courage to turn around, but the bathroom was empty. I spun back to the mirror, my reflection staring back at me, but the girl was gone. "What just happened?" I stammered. my voice shaking. My friends looked just as bewildered, eyes wide with fear. We left the bathroom, deciding we had had enough of the game. I tried to rationalise what I'd seen, telling myself it was just a trick of the light, or my mind playing games. But, deep down, I knew what I had witnessed felt all too real. Later that night, as my friends left and the door clicked shut behind them, I felt a heavy weight settle in the room. I tried to shake off the feeling of unease, but as I sat alone in the dim light of my living room, I couldn't help but glance at the bathroom door. The memory of that girl lingered in my mind, her sad eyes haunting me. I decided to call it a night, but as I walked past the bathroom, I caught a glimpse of movement in the mirror again. My heart raced as I turned. The bathroom was empty, but when I looked back at the mirror, there she was, standing behind me once more. Her expression mournful, her mouth moving silently. "Who are you?" I whispered, too afraid to move. The temperature dropped sharply and I felt a chill run down my spine. I could sense her sorrow, an overwhelming sadness that filled the air. It was as if she was trapped, longing for something she could never have. In that moment, I realised that Halloween was more than just a night of fun and games. It was a reminder that some spirits linger, tied to this world by unfulfilled desires or unresolved issues. I backed away slowly, the weight of her gaze heavy on my shoulders, and fled to my bedroom, locking the door behind me. I spent the rest of the night wide awake, listening to the silence, the echoes of the past whispering in the dark. The girl in the mirror had left an indelible mark on me, a reminder that sometimes the things we summon in the dark are not just figments of our imagination. They're remnants of the past, seeking solace in a world that has long forgotten them. The chill of Halloween night wrapped around me as I descended into the basement, armed with only a flickering flashlight. The air was thick with the smell of damp concrete and something else, something metallic. This was supposed to be just a fun adventure with friends. We had dared each other to explore the old house at the end of the street, rumoured to be haunted. I had never believed in ghosts, but as I stepped into that darkness, a shiver ran down my spine. The door creaked ominously behind me, and I felt an irrational urge to run back upstairs. But I forced myself to stay, fueled by the bravado of my friends waiting above. I could hear their muffled laughter, a welcome sound that seemed to be fading away as I ventured deeper into the shadows. The beam of my flashlight danced across the walls, revealing cobwebs that looked like fingers reaching out, trying to grasp me. As I moved further in, I heard a faint whispering, like a breeze brushing through the cracks of the old foundation. I paused, my heart pounding. "It's just the wind," I muttered to myself, but the whispers grew louder, more distinct. It sounded like somebody saying my name, echoing through the damp air, soft, pleading, "Help me." I turned on my heel, intending to go back, but the door slammed shut with a loud bang, plunging me into an engulfing darkness. Panic surged through my whole body. I rushed to the door, rattling the handle, but it wouldn't budge. I was trapped. The whispers intensified, swirling around me, and I could almost make out words. "Stay with us." They were no longer soft. They screamed for me to listen. My flashlight flickered again, casting an eerie glow that illuminated the corners of the basement. Shadows danced, forming shapes that seemed to loom closer. "Guys, let me out!" I shouted, but my voice sounded small, swallowed by the darkness. I banged on the door, hoping my friends would hear me, but the only response was silence, heavy and suffocating. Then I felt it, a cold breath on the back of my neck. I froze, my body paralysed by fear. The whispering had turned into a laughter, a sinister sound that echoed off the walls. I spun around, shining the flashlight into the darkness, but there was nothing there, just the oppressive stillness of the basement. Suddenly, the light flickered again, and for a brief moment I saw them, faces staring back at me, pale and hollow-eyed, mouths twisted into ghastly grins. They were standing just beyond the reach of the light, a group of spectres, their laughter echoing in my ears. Join us forever. I stumbled back, the flashlight slipping from my grasp and clattering to the floor, extinguishing itself. I was plunged into total darkness, the whispers now a cacophony of wails. I pounded on the door again, desperation flooding my veins. Please let me out! But then, as if the house itself had come alive, I felt a pull, a force dragging me towards the shadows. I fought against it, clawing at the floor, but the darkness was too strong. You can't leave, they breathed, their voices merging into one. You're one of us now. In that moment, I realised the truth. This was not just a basement, it was a grave, and I had stumbled into a trap laid many years ago. As I was pulled deeper into the void, my last thoughts were of my friends, who would never know what happened to me. Just as I felt I'd lost all hope, the door creaked open above, and I could hear my friend's faint laughter again from upstairs, and a familiar voice called my name. With the last ounce of energy I had left in me, I scrambled to my feet and fought my way to the top of the stairs. I gasped for breath as I reached the top, slamming the door behind me. I vowed never to go down into that basement ever again. That's all for today. I really hope these stories give you nightmares. If you enjoyed the video, please help me out with the algorithm by clicking the thumbs up and subscribing to the channel for a feast of grim and grisly content. As always, thanks for watching. I'm your host, Severed Soul.